Everybody, my name is Tresson Patterson. It's kind of weird. So I guess for a little while now, whenever I'm introducing myself, one of the things I always tell people, as corny as it sounds, I said, hey, my name is Tresson, and it rhymes with salad dressing. And usually that they'll remember that forever. So guys, my name is Tresson, and it rhymes with salad dressing. And I wanted to tell you a couple things about my personality. So one of the things, I'm real talkative. I get excited easily, and when I'm excited, I've got to say something to get what I'm feeling out. So some of the things I usually say, it's like rock and roll, or it's like yeehaw, or it's just a woo. So what I want everybody to do is I want every single person to stand up. I want every single person to stand up. Shake it off a little bit, get comfortable. You're only going to be here for a second. And so what I want everybody to do is I want you guys to scream, woo, as loud as you possibly can. Do not embarrass me, because I'm going to give it everything that I have in this 1 second. So do not shrink back. I want you to wake up the person in DHL studying for some reason. I want you to wake up the people who are in Bregal over there. So at the count of 3, so I do 1, 2, 3, then do it. Okay, 1, 2, 3, then do it. Don't do it yet. And I'm going to turn off my mic so I can put some power behind it. So. All right, there's a reason why I did this. I didn't do that just because it's 9 in the morning and I want you guys to listen to me, so I'm doing some cheesy icebreaker. There's always a reason why I'm doing this. And one thing I kind of wanted to ask you guys is, you guys really did participate well. I wasn't expecting that, but how many of you guys thought that was a little bit weird? That was a little bit uncomfortable. I really need you guys to be honest with me. You guys are just like, that's not me. I don't do that. I don't raise my voice like that. How many of you guys didn't say anything? You guys just, and I just want you to be honest. Thank you. You didn't say nothing. And then how many of you guys, thank you. I was supposed to say, if you really want to be brutally honest, please be honest and be honest and be honest. But how many of you guys said something, but you didn't really put a lot into it? You just said, woo. You wanted to save a little bit. You just didn't want to be a bump on the log, the stick in the mud around your table. You just wanted to say something. I'm not trying to insult you guys, but thank you for admitting that. And I guess the thing I'm trying to get at with you guys is, it's going to seem like I'm coming down hard when I say this, but this doesn't apply just for those who maybe spoke up a lot more than others. It applies to everybody. And the thing is how this goes for all of us. We are never going to put ourselves in a situation to meet a person of peace if we're always seeking to be comfortable. So let's think about that for a second. We need to revel in who God called us to be. We need to let go of this false sense of security with just being who we are, with being comfortable, with just trying to save our face. That's just not me. And what we really need to do is we need to be who God called us to be. He called us to be ambassadors. He called us to speak out, to open our mouths. And the thing about that is, we've got to open our mouths in order to meet anybody. That's how a conversation works. And so it's one of the things that's really pierced my heart is Romans 3:13 through 15. And what it says is, every single person who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. But how can they call on his name to be saved? Unless they believe in him. And how can they believe in him if they've never even heard about him? And how can they hear about him if no one's even told them about Jesus? And how is someone going to tell them unless they've been sent? That is why the scriptures say, blessed are the feet of the messengers who bring the good news. So that's what I want to get into. We're going to be talking about people of peace, person of peace. What does that even mean? What is a person of peace? How do you find them? What do you say to them? How do you start the conversation? What if they don't like you? How do you become their friend? How do you do all of those things? What even is this? And so my goal is to anchor every last bit of this in Scripture. It would be useless if I didn't. But what I want to do before that, we're going to get to that, but what I wanted to start and do was to share just some of the things that I've been working on in my own life. 2 examples I want to share with you. This is a high level, a big picture, and then we're going to start digging deep into what the Scriptures say, what God says we should be doing about the people of peace in our lives. So the first example, the focus of this example is, what does it look like to put yourself in a situation to meet people of peace? And so the thing is, guys, I have not always been like this. As much as I'd like to say it, I have not been. I used to be a bump in the log. All I did was care about my own self and my own plans. Sure, I definitely did not want to care about somebody else, figure out where they are, let alone speak to them. And it's a little bit different now. And the thing is, things started changing this summer. This summer, technically August, when the school year started, the fall pep rally we had here, and Burke shared a passage in the Old Testament that just ripped me to shreds in the best possible way. And it was in 2 Samuel. It talked about David's son, Absalom. And what Absalom was doing in this passage was he was starting to rebel against his dad. And what he was doing was he was gathering resources. He was gathering chariots and men and horses, and they were going up every single morning to the gate. And what Absalom was doing is he was trying everything he could to woo the hearts, to steal the hearts of the people away from his dad, away from his king. And what Bert challenged us to do that night, he said, I want you, every single one of you guys, to be Absalom. You're like, wait a minute, wasn't he kind of evil? He was rebelling. And he was saying, no, I want you to be not an evil Absalom. I want you to be an Absalom that isn't stealing hearts from the king. I want you to be an Absalom that is winning hearts for the king. And so that night, it all really hit me, because up until that point, I didn't really care. I didn't want to meet other people. I didn't want to do all that work that it takes to get to the city gate. He woke up early to get there. He brought all of his resources. He had to spend time. He had to speak to people in order to win their hearts. And I had never wanted to do that, but that moment I said, no, I want to do this. For once in my life, I want to win people's hearts for God. And so that night, I claimed an area. I said, this semester, Sullivan is going to be my second home. Sullivan is a dorm right across the way that way. And that night, someone had to see me. They would have thought it was weird, but I just started walking around Sullivan. It was real late at night. I just started walking. I was just touching the building. You would have called me out on it, but I was just praying, God, I know that there are going to be thousands of kids coming into this dorm in just a week. And I'm just asking you, would you open their hearts? Would you please bring somebody into this dorm who wants to have a relationship with me, that they want to be a leader. They don't know how, but they want to become one. Maybe even bring people who don't care anything about you, but you put in my path so that I can tell them about you, God. I just need you to provide these people, because there's nothing I can do. I'm counting on you. So that's what I did that night, and I started acting on it, just like Absalom did. He woke up early, and so I started having a game plan. I had to make a change in the way I was living so that I could put myself in a situation to be at that city gate. And so here's a couple things that I started doing. I had to drastically change my day. Not really. I mean, just had to change a couple things. So here's a couple. I chose from that day on, when I was coming on the campus, no matter where I was going, whether it was downtown Raleigh or if it was to the other side of campus, I'm parking at Sullivan. I'm parking at that back lot. I'll skateboard down, and I'm just going to park there regardless of where I'm going. Second, I don't care how much of a rush I'm in, where I'm going, or what I'm doing. I am going to walk through Sullivan. I'm going to walk right through that lobby, and I'm just going to be asking you, God, would you please run me into somebody that I've been reaching out to, someone who's been avoiding me, somebody I've been reaching out to because, God, I only have so much time. Please bring me into encounters when I walk through that dorm. And then the second one, I am going to spend as much time as I possibly can in the Sullivan Lounge with all the computers. If I've got to do something on a computer, if I've got to write an email outside of work, I'm going to go to Sullivan to do it because there's people that are consistently coming to Sullivan and they're doing their homework there. I'm going to spend time there regardless of what I have to do. And the last thing, if I'm going to meet somebody on campus, if I plan on going outreaching and with the plan of hoping to share the good news with somebody, I am going to do that in Sullivan on West Campus. Even if one person walks by the entire night, I'm going to do it over there instead of Tally, where there are hundreds, because that's my focus, and I want to meet somebody who's living in that dorm. So that's what I did, and God answered every single one of those prayers. People who I had been reaching out to who were just, they didn't want any more conversations with me. As soon as I walked through the door and opened it, we were opening the door at the same time. Encounters like that all the time. Every single person I know for Sullivan, except for one, I met this year. I met this past semester, the past 6 months. So that is just the big takeaway I want you to take from this is ask yourself this, 2 questions. Am I willing to get comfortable being uncomfortable for the sake of the gospel? And the second one, am I willing to do whatever it takes to actively seek and win over hearts by being faithful and present at the city gates? Am I willing to do whatever it takes to actively seek and win over hearts by being faithful and present at the city gates? So that's Sullivan. That's my first example. The second example is, so that was the focus of how do I put myself in a position? What can I force myself to do in order to put myself in a position to meet people of peace? The second one, this is actually a person of peace that I met this past semester. He's not the only one, but he's one that I think really fits what I'm trying to explain and what I'm trying to share with you guys. His name is Vince, and he's from France, and he, turn to find out, he had only come to study here at State for 1 semester. And I met him at the very tail end of this past school year. And the thing is, I didn't meet Vince. I wasn't the first one who started the relationship. A guy I'm discipling named Chris, one of my real closest friends, he is the president of the table tennis club. Vince just so happened to go to that club. And afterwards, they went to dinner together, and all Chris did that night was they were eating food. Chris just took a second to bow his head to pray for his food, and immediately Vince said, "Hey, do you believe in God? I've never seen anybody do that in France. Why are you doing this? Can you just help me understand?" Before he could even pray for his food. And that night, Chris shared the gospel with Vince and asked him to come to church, and I met Vince at church that weekend. And that weekend, Vince is a skeptic. There's a lot of really important things he did not agree with regards to the gospel, with regards to who God is and who Jesus is, and he just didn't agree with it. But he was willing to meet up to talk about it. He was willing to hear our message so that he could work through some of the things that he just couldn't get. And so from then on, for the next 4 weeks, we just started meeting with him. I had limited time with him, guys. Like, he's going to France. He is going, and he's not coming back. And so we just started meeting with him and going through the gospel again to make sure he understood it. Going through questions that he had, and most importantly, we bought him a Bible. He was a skeptic against something he had never read before. So we got him a Bible, and he started reading it, and we started keeping on hanging out. And there was one Saturday where he said, "Tresson, I'm going to fix you French spaghetti, whatever that means, and let's just talk about the gospel." I have a lot of questions. I don't get what in the world he's talking about in Mark. And so I spent 3 hours in his apartment. We just ate spaghetti. We talked about the gospel, and apparently they drink hot tea. I don't really like that, but we did that for 3 hours. And the thing I'm trying to get across is he did not believe that God was inerrant. He didn't believe that God was all-knowing and perfect. He didn't believe that people who reject a relationship with God deserve to go to hell. That's the punishment that rejection deserves. He didn't believe any of that. And I told him that's the truth. But the thing is, he kept on answering my texts. He kept on meeting back up with me. He kept on wanting to hang out. He kept coming to church. He kept being willing to go to lunch with other people in our church. And so Vince is in France now. And I can't do this with Vince. I can't sit here and tell him how much I love him in person. But the thing is, what we're still doing is Facebook Messenger. We're just going back and forth on the gospel and just things that he's still unsure about. We're still staying in touch. So to me, that is just a huge example of a person of peace. So that's 2 examples of mine that have happened within the past 6 months. Vince within the past 1 month. So the point I'm trying to get across is God is already working in people's lives. And our responsibility is to find where God is working and join him. So those 2 examples I shared, that's just me. That's just what I just so happened to be up to this past semester. But who cares what Tresson is saying up here? I'd rather us see what God has to say about what even is this whole person of peace thing. How should we go in about do it? What are things that we shouldn't do, and what are things that we should do? What should we be looking out for? How do I recognize what a person of peace even is? And so that's what I want to do. I want us to go through 3 passages, and we're going to be doing that as tables. And so just give me a second as I write them on the board. We're going to take about 10 minutes to do this, but there's some things I want us to do while we're reading them. So the first one is Matthew 10, 1 through 15. And Mark 6, 7 through 13. And lastly, Luke 10, 1 through 12. So what I want you guys to do is, I want you guys to be thinking about, as you're reading these passages, what is Jesus telling his disciples to do, and what is he telling his disciples not to do when he sends them out to go find these people of peace? So don't do it for, I'll explain in a second, but let me write this. Do, don't do. Awesome. All right, everybody. I know it's kind of tough to interrupt you when you're in the middle of digging out all these nuggets of gold, but Jared, would you be so kind as to come up? I want to hear what you guys discovered as you were going through each of these, and I'm really going to need you to shout them out. Luckily, I don't have to write them, so at least say them slow enough to give Jared a chance to keep up. But starting with Matthew 10, what are some things that Jesus said to do? Just start shouting them out. Go after the lost sheep of Israel.
Proclaim as you go.
Proclaim as you go.
Raise the dead.
Raise the dead.
Heal the sick.
Heal the sick.
Cleanse the leper.
Cleanse the leper. What was that? Cast out the demons. How are you doing, Jared? Oh, you got 2 so far. Well, there's a lot of repetition between the 2, so just catch Jared out. Call him out on anything he's forgetting. What about things that we should not be doing?
Asking for money.
Asking for money. Don't bring a walking stick. I saw that one. Don't go to the Gentiles or Samaritans. Stay where you are. Stay with the children of Israel. What other things? In this Matthew only at this point in time, what should we not do? Somebody say, don't take any money already. Don't take any traveler's bags, clothes. Well, I mean, what would you guys think if you heard that? I don't go anywhere without my backpack, without my charger, just in case my iPad dies. I got to have my iPad, got my wallet, my money. He's saying, don't bring any of that. Trust me. You will be provided for as you go out and do all of these things. So what about Mark? What about Mark 6, 7 through 13? Doing the same fashion. Keep shouting them out. Things, and don't say the same things that you've already heard. Call Jared out on anything that he's missed from the first passage so far, but in Mark, things that we should be doing. Say that again. Stay in the same house. Go 2 by 2.
Give authority over evil spirits.
Say that again.
Give authority over evil spirits.
Give authority over evil spirits. Cast them out. Get rid of them. What else? Take a walking stick this time. I saw that one. He said that's okay this time. This time you can have it. Any others? What about, no one's mentioned if the place refuses you, what should you do? He said, do this.
Shake the dust off.
Shake the dust off. He said, shake it off. Abandon them to their own choice that they made. They are rejecting him. They're rejecting the message. They're not just rejecting the fact that, they're human beings. They're rejecting the message. So you just shake it off. Shake it off. What about things to don't do in Mark? Did I ask that? That aren't on this board. We're aggregating all of these together. Don't bring an extra tunic. Is that what both of you guys said? Oh, what did you say? Don't greet anybody on the road. Don't take an extra tunic. I saw no money again, no change of clothes. Pray earnestly. I'll go back under the do, yeah. Do not pray earnestly. No. And so while Jared's finishing that up, what about the last section? Luke 10, 1 through 12. Things that we should be doing. Say that again. Ask for workers. Bless the homes you enter.
Eat and drink what's provided.
Eat and drink what's provided. Even if you don't like it. Say that again. When you find a person of peace, stick with them. Do not abandon them. You did not run into them by accident. What about things, just to finish this exercise, what about things that we should not do, that we haven't covered yet, that were in Luke 10, 1 through 12? Don't go house by house. Don't stay if there is not a person of peace.
Don't hesitate to accept hospitality.
That's right. You could take it either way. Accept hospitality or don't hesitate to accept hospitality. So, we pretty much covered a lot of that. And the thing is, Jared, when you get done with that, I know I apologize if all of you guys are writing these down as he's doing it. Maybe not. You already pretty much did write them down. But when you get done with that, Jared, I want you to flip it over. And the thing is, it's crazy to see how much overlap is between all these passages in all three of those Gospels. And the thing is, we start to get a picture of who are these people that actually receive us? Who are these people, these persons of peace? I can know what to look for, characteristics. So that's what we're going to do when we flip the board. I want you to be thinking about it. I'm going to list them out, but I'd like to hear what you guys think. What are some characteristics of a person of peace based on what you read?
They will feed you.
They will feed you. They will. So for that one, I would just round it all in. They receive you into their home. Hospitality, exactly. They not only are they willing to say hello to you, they're willing to open up to you, but they're saying, I'm going to make myself vulnerable and come into my house. This is where I live. This is where I sleep. This is where I stay. And it doesn't even really have to be the house. It could just be, let's meet up again. Come into my life. Be a part of who I am. And just let's not make this a one-time encounter. And so I would bounce even off of this one. The second one is not only do they receive you into their home. So that's really, that one all encompasses that. They receive you into their home. The big one, there's the one I wanted to go into next is they receive you, period. They open up. They not only are they just, willing to talk to you about what you're talking about, they are willing to open up and tell you about things that are going on in their lives. They let the barrier down and they just start being real with you. They just, that's a good word for it. They are just real with you. The barrier is down. And then the third one, so the first two, they receive you into their home, and they receive your message. So that's what these disciples were doing. They weren't just coming, just casting out jokes and going on a vacation. They had a message. They were sent out to proclaim the kingdom of God is near. Repent from your sins. Turn away from the way you were living, guys, and trust in Jesus. There's a way to have a relationship with him. And that's the message they were bringing. This does not mean that this person of peace has to believe it as soon as they hear it. But it means that they are willing to receive it. They're willing to talk to you about it. They're willing to ask you to explain it more. So they're receiving your message. So that's person of peace. Those are characteristics you can be looking for as you're going out and meeting people. But then what about the actual disciples, the trainers? What are characteristics of trainers, us who are going out? So the first one is they are bringing God's presence. They are bringing God's presence. What do you think that means, guys? They're bringing God's presence. They're not picky. They're not picky. They are coming not as themselves. They know that there is nothing they can do on their own. They are coming with the power of God to proclaim this message. They know that everything that Jesus just said to do, they know that they can't do that on their own. They can't just wake up and say, I'm going to heal you. They know that they need Jesus to do all of those crazy things that he was asking them to do. The second one is, it kind of hops in line with that one, is they bring God's power. They bring God's power. They're counting on God coming through to do all of those things through them that Jesus asked them to do. And third, they are bringing the proclamation of the gospel. They are proclaiming a message. It goes all the way back to what we had talked about before. We've been hitting on it the whole time in 2 Corinthians 5. We're ambassadors. We're representing the kingdom of God. We have a message to share with folks, and that's what they did. They were not shy. They proclaimed it. And so by this point, you guys are probably, your heads hopefully are full. But the thing is, when you get to a point like this, you're like, this is fine and dandy, Tresson. There's a lot of things we could be looking out for. We got all these tools to go about and use. Tommy shared with us how to share our testimony with someone. We know how to share the gospel. We know what to be looking for in a person of peace. We know we should be looking for persons of peace. But then the whole issue comes, well, the person's in front of you. What are you going to do about it? And it's like that verse we said in Romans 10, it all comes down to, am I willing to open my mouth? And so that's what I wanted to practice with you guys. And my home group and my small groups know that I'm infamous for this, but the one thing I think we all as human beings get caught up in is we just get so scared to start a conversation. How in the world am I going to get this guy to listen to me, somehow bring in my testimony? How am I going to work that in there? And we just think, there are probably just a few examples, a few words that could probably, if they mention it, I could get into the conversation. If they don't mention those, it's not going to happen. We're never going to get into a conversation. And I'm here to tell you that's just a bunch of baloney. That's not true. I'm here to say that there is not a single word that we can't use to get into a spiritual conversation. So I'm really going to be pressing on the Spirit right now to ask for some help, but some brave soul, I'm going to demonstrate this. In 30 seconds, I'm going to take a random word from the audience, and I want you to just shout it out, and I want to turn it into, somehow bring it into a spiritual conversation. I'm not saying I'm going to just start drawing the bridge on the whiteboard. What I'm saying is I'm going to take some random word and somehow pivot the conversation towards Jesus. So be merciful or don't be. Well, what's a word? Someone.
Dead cat. Dead cat. Penny. Dead cat. Dead cat. Infection. Dead cat. Dead cat. Dead cat.
Dead cat. All right. So, I was talking to a friend, and I'm just bringing in a scenario here. So the guy mentions, he had a cat he loved. This cat got ran over, and he has a dead cat on his hands. And the thing is, man, Clea, I'm so sorry about your dead cat. I saw one on the road the other day, and but really, Clea, I go on walks every single day, and you tend to see stuff like that. But the reason why I'm going on walks is because that's just my time to hang out with God. I live with a bunch of guys who challenge me to work on my relationship with God so that I'm focusing on the things that matter. And Clea, I know that you're going through a lot right now, but putting that aside, I know you're mourning over your cat, but do you have a relationship with him? Have you even thought about that? Do you take time to step out of your day and just talk to God? So that's how you would do it. Unfortunately, I could have been a little kinder about the dead cat, but the purpose of that is, all examples aside, it doesn't matter what word. It could be anything, and you can turn the conversation into something focused about God, just something to push the conversation in that direction. So here's what I want you to do. The thing is, like, the one of the opportunities we have to use this is what we were challenged to do last night. Tommy and Burke and everybody, they challenged us to go out last night and to go outreach and to share all these things that we've been doing. And that's one of the biggest ways that we can use is something as simple as this. And really, this exercise is just to break down that mental barrier you have to say, I'm just not good at starting conversations. Well, maybe you aren't, but at the same time, you have the ability to. And so when we go outreaching, the thing is, we could go out on our own in our own ability, and we could probably start a conversation, probably. But the thing is that going to be the conversation that God wanted to? Are we making sure that when we go out to outreach and we're going out to just start conversations with people, are we praying about it? Are we asking God for help? And so there's 5 things, Bert mentioned it before, there's 5 things that we need to be asking God before we even think about starting to talk with somebody, before we even go out. And I'm going to just write it over here because that's the space I have. But there's 5 things, 5 H's. And these are things that we're asking God for. The first one is that God would open heaven. And what I mean by that is, God, that you would bless the area that I'm with, that you would make your name great at Sullivan or at Bergal or wherever you guys are in Wilmington, whatever dorms you're looking at or apartment complexes, God, that you would show up. That you would cause hearts to be opened. Open hearts, that they would not be closed off to having conversations, that we would meet persons of peace, people of peace, that they would want to hear the gospel. That, God, would you please provide open homes? And even really when we think about it, just people who want to meet up more than that first time we saw them, they want to invite me in to their lives, and I want to invite them into my life. God, that you would open up the doors of home so that we could go in and meet back up and do a discovery Bible study, just talk about the word. Number 4, that there would be open highways. What do I mean by that? I mean that this message that we are going out and bringing, that we are telling people, that we're proclaiming, that it wouldn't just stop at the person you're talking to, that it would just explode past them, that there would be people that person would share it with, that all throughout the building that they live in, this message would be proclaimed until what we've been saying, that there's no place left, that it would multiply, that it would just speed down that highway of all the area that you're working in. And lastly, 4, 5. Open hands. God, would you please provide some help? Please provide laborers. I can't do this on my own. You saw Todd with all the numbers he showed. How in the world are we going to do that on our own? We're not meant to do that on our own. We're meant to do that with brothers and sisters around us. Why do you think Bert grouped us together like that? Why do you think we have small groups and home groups? It's so we can do that together. There's no way we can do that on our own. God, you've got to provide help. I can't do this on my own. I want to work with somebody, so please show me that person. And so these are things that we need to be praying through before we even think about opening our mouths and talking to people. So that's what I want you guys to do. I want you to spend 5 minutes with a person next to you, and I want you to start praying over those 5 H's for the area that you're working in. So I want you guys to do that, and not only do I want you to pray through those 5 H's, ask God to put people of peace in your life. God, please, would you run me into people as soon as I get back? God, that when I walked, I would just keep seeing that person over and over and over again, that you would put it on my heart to just talk to them. God, would you provide us people of peace in addition to helping us with all these 5 H's? So to spend time, just 5 minutes, I'll close us off after that. Pray through this with the area that you're working through, with the person next to you. Guys, what I want to leave you with is I want to bring back that example I brought from the beginning about Absalom. If Absalom was so incredibly focused and faithful to do evil towards his father, how much more so could we do good and be just as faithful to win hearts for God? How much more could we be faithful in doing good, not even evil, but doing good? And so, guys, I challenge you to find a field. You've been seeing that diagram the whole time. Find a field, find a location, target an area, and go out 2 by 2 like we did last night. Pursue those people with the characteristics that you're seeing. Look for people who have these characteristics. Be praying, God, there's no way I can do this on my own, but I know that you can, and I know you're going to just start feeding people towards me, just starting to run them right into me. So this is the one thing I want you guys to remember. The people of peace are many, and the workers are few. So pray for laborers and for help. Thank you, guys.